Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of What's New in Beekast. This is our May edition, and I'm very happy because I have so many new updates to show you today. So, my name is Clara. I'm the Marketing and Communication Manager here at Beekast, and today we're going to go over just the general updates that have happened recently in the Beekast session. Some of these you may have already seen, some of these may be brand new. We're just going to cover them all together. All right, just going to make sure that everyone can hear and see me as always, but I see I'm already seeing some thumbs up, so that's always a pretty good example that everyone can see me. Okay, great. Checking the chat. And I think we're good. I think we can go ahead and start. So, the very first thing that I wanted to share today, and as you can see, I'm sharing kind of what we'll cover during this webinar together. So, the very first thing is, as you can see, a simpler presentation mode. So, what does this mean? Well, for those of you who are familiar with this feature, you have the presentation tab. This is a whole other view in order to share your BCAS session in a really simple and effective way. So basically, when a facilitator clicks on the present button right here that I'm showing you, a new window is going to open, no longer a simple tab. This was the case before, and it could get a little confusing because you would click on present and immediately you would have very little information on what was happening and what this new tab was presenting and what it was used for. So here what we've done is we have completely revised and clarified the messaging around this feature to really make it a lot easier to use for you as a facilitator. So here's what it looks like when I click on my present tab right here, my little button. I'm going to go ahead and click on present. As you can see on my screen, I can see that I'm currently, this is my facilitator view. This screen right here, everything happening, everything that I'm showing you, this is now a facilitator view. So this is a window that I'm going to keep as a facilitator where only I can see this window. It's going to allow me to have full control over my presentation. I can go to another slide. I can come back. I can, of course, start and stop activities. So I have full control over my presentation and I can see everything that's happening. And at the same time, when I clicked on this present button, what happened is another window popped up. So, going to show you right now what I'm seeing on this window. So as you can see, this is the window that appeared at the same time, and this is going to be the participation view. So this window is the window that you want to make visible to your participants. Let's say you're doing a fully remote meeting. This is the window that you're going to be sharing when you're sharing your screen. So that's the one that you want your participants to see. If you're doing a hybrid or a live session in person with everyone, this is also the screen that you're going to be sharing on whichever projector or TV you're using to project your BCAS session. All right, so click on understood, and there you have it. This is your projection screen, your presentation mode. And as you can see, it's just a lot smoother, a lot nicer and simpler. Your participants, they don't need to see everything happening behind the scenes. For example, here, they don't need to see all of these slides. They don't need to see all the different features that you have access to, all of these buttons, because that gets a little confusing. And these are basically only things that you're using as a facilitator. So for participants, this projection screen is really nice because it's so much simpler and smoother. As you can see, you have your slide. And of course, as a facilitator, I still have full control over the switching slides. So in real time, I can go ahead and go to the next activity. And as you can see for participants, this looks a lot nicer. As a facilitator, you also have access to a couple features in the projection mode, in the presentation mode here. So for example, if I go up to the settings, you'll see that two other little icons appear showing you right now in live. You have a little pointer that's really nice to get everyone's attention around a specific topic, a specific part of your slide. So go ahead and use that, kind of swing it around. And as you can see, your eyes are really drawn towards it. So here I'm talking about a simpler presentation mode, and you can follow along and it's super easy. Second feature that you can show is the leaderboard. This isn't going to be super interesting today. Sorry. Sadly, there has been no participation in this session. No one has answered, taken part in an activity or anything like that. But if you were hosting multiple activities and different people had taken part, you would be able to see a leaderboard appear and kind of keep track of who has the most points, who's the most engaged participant, who got all the right answers. And this is just a really nice way to gamify your presentation along the way. And then finally, you have some extra settings. For example, if you're doing a presentation and people want to join your Beekast session by scanning a QR code with their phone, you can go ahead and click on project QR code, and you'll get this QR code that appears for everyone in a really big format, making it super easy to scan in order to join the Beekast session. You also have some extra controls. For example, I'll show you with this activity. Let's say we're doing a rating activity like this one, and you want to make it a lot easier and more visible for people to see. Here, what you would do is just zoom in. So as you can see, you can actually reset the size of your activity. If I'm zooming in at 150%, this makes it a lot bigger. And this is usually used for in-person events where the screen can be a little far away or it's difficult for some audience members to see the activity. So don't hesitate, go ahead and zoom in just to make it super easy to see for everyone. All right, so let me just reset this. Perfect. And we can move on to our second new update. So the second thing that I wanted to show you, and some of you may have already seen this, especially because I talked about it very briefly in our last What's New in Bcast, but this is our session banner. Basically, our old session banner could be a little confusing at times because we really showcased a lot less information. Basically, when it came to settings and the results, you didn't have these buttons like this at all. You only had the little icons, so which made it sometimes really difficult to see, and people were a little lost in trying to find these settings and session results. So what we've done is we have completely come up with a new display for you. So now each session is going to display a banner with really visible and ordered action buttons. When I talk about them being ordered, I mean that they do have a logical order, which means that when you're creating your Bcast session, the first thing that you're going to want to do is look into some session settings. So you're going to want to set up your session to really make it your own. So that's the first button you're going to click on, right? Which is settings. This is going to allow you to, if you want, change the title. You can make this session synchronous or asynchronous, which means self-paced. You can also decide on how people are going to join your session. Are they going to be identified with a Bcast account by email? Are they going to have an avatar, which basically makes them unidentified, anonymous? Or a username, which is a little different as well, because here people get to enter a username instead of being given an avatar. But there's still no need to have a mandatory Bcast account compared to the email settings. All right, so as you can see, just this setting buttons, first thing that you want to start with when you're creating your Bcast session. Second button, now you've created your content, you've added all your activities, you've set up your session the way you want it, you're ready to share your session. So you're ready to get participants to join in. So share button, that sounds pretty chronologically logical to add. So click on that share button. And as always, you'll be able to have multiple ways of sharing your session, whether it's with a public link, whether it is through the session code. You can even add facilitators if you want to have more facilitators join your session. This means people who can help you out. They can be moderators. They can kind of test for providing you any help with the Bcast session along the way. So adding co-facilitators is also very easy here. This is just everything to do with editing and sharing your session. All right, next, Once everyone has joined in on your session, we've seen this before, but now it makes a lot more sense. Everyone is here, everyone's joined your session. Go ahead and click on present so that your participants get access to the presentation screen and you as a facilitator can keep working behind the scenes with this screen. And finally, once your session is finished, once everyone has taken part, you can go ahead and click on results and you will get access to all of your session's results. You'll be able to see your most active users, most engaged participants. You'll be able to export documents and reports. We'll look into that a little later, but there you go. So these buttons are just now a lot more visible. You can't miss them, and it just makes the entire user experience a lot easier. All right, second part of the session banner that I wanted to share with you is just the key session properties. Now, session properties weren't necessarily available before in Beekast, as in you had to know where to find them. So you had to do some digging, had to go in your session settings, kind of look at what kind of mode, navigation mode were you on, what kind of participant identification was there, what was the status of your session. And these were things that were made a little bit more hidden and confusing at times. So, what we've done is we've made sure that these key session properties are made visible at all times in your session's banner. So, this looks like these three icons right here. There we go. If you follow my little mouse, as you can see, the first icon lets you know that you are currently in a meeting that is set up to be synchronous. So next thing is the little avatar here, the little icon, which means that identification mode is currently in unique avatar mode. That's what I showed you in the session settings. And finally, that green little lock lets us know that our session is currently open. And to close it, we can go ahead and click on share, and then we can close the session here. There we go. So super easy. It's now very simple to keep an eye on what your session's key settings are and without eventually having to go and dig a little deeper into the settings. Great. Now let's move on to the guided homepage. Just going to do a quick pause, make sure that there are no questions in the chat. I'm not seeing any questions. I'm seeing another little thumbs up, which sounds pretty good to me. Let's keep going. All right. So when it comes to our guided homepage, basically users who are creating a Beekast account for the very first time will now be greeted by a welcome page that's going to help them create their first session in one click, and they're going to be able to create this session by choosing an activity of their choice. So this was something that didn't exist before. We actually, when users created their Bcast account for the very first time, they were directly redirected to their workspace. And the workspace is great, but for new users, it can be a little confusing and can be kind of challenging when you're trying to understand how Bcast works. We wanted to make that experience a lot easier. So for any active users who have had a Bcast account for a while, I'm sorry to say this doesn't feel like a really big new update for you because you won't be able to go through this experience. But it is a really nice update for new users who are just now creating a Bcast account for the very first time. I'll show you what this looks like. They'll be redirected to this page right here. I'll make it bigger for everyone to see. And this is a page. I'm sorry it's in French, but stay with me. It's pretty easy to visualize and understand. Basically, what we're doing is interacting with them by saying, create your very first activity in just one click. So instead of being sent to their workspace, you create your Bcast account, and then you're immediately taken to this page where you get to create an activity. So what you'll do is you'll either decide on a word cloud, a board, or a quiz. You can, of course, discover all of our 15 activities if you want another activity. You have access to our live chat if you need to contact our support team. You can even do a quick look at Bcast to just kind of understand the platform. But the goal is really to get you to create your first activity. So if you click on word cloud, for example, even if you hover over any one of these activities, we'll show you a preview of the activity so that you get an idea of what this activity looks like. And once you've selected, let's say I click on word cloud, I'll immediately be sent to a Beekast session with a word cloud activity that is ready to be set up. So, really, in just one click, I already have a session with an activity that I can create and launch. And that's supposed to really help new users understand the value of Beekast, what it does, how you can use it in a really short amount of time. All right, so that's a fun new update for new users. Let's get back to updates that you'll love as a Bcast connoisseur. So, instant preview of activities. This is something that I've been talking a lot about in previous What's New in Bcast formats. For those of you who have been around now a couple times for these webinars, you'll know what I'm talking about. But basically, what we've done with Bcast recently is we have set up an update where each activity has now instant preview and auto save. So, what is instant preview? This means that when I'm creating an activity for the right here by clicking on add a slide, I'm going to select an activity. Let's select the rating activity, for example. I can then ask a question. And as you can see, I have my settings, my activity settings that are here on the right side of my screen. And in the center of my screen, I have my activity that is in real time being created. And I have a live preview of what my activity is going to look like. This makes it a lot easier for me as a creator, a facilitator, to know what I'm preparing in Bcast. And also, we have autosave. So you may have noticed that in this column, there's no more save button. And that's completely normal. It's just because all of your changes are being saved along the way, which means that you don't have to worry anymore about losing any of your changes or modifications because everything will be saved as you work. So let me show you what this looks like. We could ask a question here. For example, what did you think about this webinar? And then the second that I have entered my title appears in real time at the center of my screen. Same goes here for the activity format. If I decide that I want this to be on 3 stars, in real time, I have my 3 stars that appear. I'll put it back to 5. Now I'm back to 5 stars. And I don't need to save or anything like that. Everything is being saved as I go. So once I'm happy with this activity, I can go ahead and click on the little exit button, and my activity is ready to start. And I can take part and I can vote, and everything is happening in real time. So it makes it a lot easier. Before, there were more steps. You could get lost along the way. You could also forget to save your work and lose it. So this was just made to really, really make your user experience so much smoother, so much better. And I hope that everyone is liking this new feature because for me, it's just really been a huge improvement in my Bcast experience. All right. Moving on to our final update. This is a very minor update, so you'll see it's going to go very quickly. Because we're a little bit ahead of time on time, I'm going to go ahead and check in the chat if there are any questions. And I have one question. So someone is asking about the guided homepage. So I'm sorry I missed out on that question. Could have checked earlier. So for the guided homepage, is it possible to offer the guided homepage to new users who already have a Bcast account? So this is that's a really great question because I feel like someone who created a Bcast account before this update, but who hasn't necessarily used it yet, may could benefit from this. Sadly, this is an update that has happened only for new users, new activities that are new accounts that are being created. Sorry. So what I would recommend is for these new users who have created a Bcast account but created it before this update, what they could do is go to our support website. This is our help center. There are so many examples and little tutorials on how to do things in Bcast. We also have a YouTube channel with really quick setups on how to start using Bcast, how to get a hand on things. You have playlists to help you. And finally, we have the Beekast Academy. The Beekast Academy is really great because there is the basics of Beekast, which is a 1 hour course. It can actually be done in in a smaller amount of time, but we recommend an hour just to get through all the material and the quizzes. But basically, this is a course that really allows you to understand how to use Beecast in the most basic way. So, what setting up your account, your workspace, creating an activity, playing a session, getting to the results, just kind of the basics. And this is just a great way to get started. You can you can go ahead and access the Bcast Academy, and available directly from our website. And I'll make sure to send you a link afterwards as well with the Bcast Academy link. All right, so I hope this helps. Sorry, the guided homepage is only for new users, new accounts that have been created since this update. But rest assured, there are so many other ways to understand Vcasting and start using it and get tutorials and access to a lot of small courses to get a grip on things. All right, so you're welcome. Checking the chat a final time, and I think we're good. Okay, great. So, our final update. Our final update is more visible reports. This was something that was said a lot during some of the feedback that we were getting from users, where when you go to your results space, these buttons used to be in a pretty light shade of gray, making them feel pretty invisible. And we even had some users that felt as though they were deactivated. So it wasn't actually possible to click on these buttons. This wasn't the case. They have always been buttons that have been accessible to all users, starting from a certain plan. So make sure that you have the right plan to export, for example, the Excel results. But other than that, they were always made available. But sadly, this light gray color always kind of seemed like they weren't available, or people just didn't see them because they didn't stand out a lot. So looked into this was more of a kind of user interface update and evolution. And what we did was, very simply, we just made these a different color. So as I said, it's a very minor change, but I think it's a change that some people will really like, especially new users who didn't know that it was possible to export results from a BCAS session. And of course, you have all the reports that are still here made accessible throughout your results space. So you can go ahead and generate your meeting notes. You can generate session media, which is kind of a screenshot of all of your activities and slides displayed. This is great if you're just looking for kind of the overall session layout. And then finally, the best report for our analytical teams, for learning and development teams that are looking to dive deeper into the session's data. This would be the export results Excel format. So this will give you access to everything you need to know and more when it comes to a BCAS session, activity results per participant. You can also get a lot of little insights throughout when it comes to engagement, participation scores, and things like that. All right. So there you have it. Those were the main updates when it came to the month of May. A lot of small tweaks and bigger changes that are really here to help make your experience in BCAS the best ever. And I hope you liked some of these updates. Some you may have already known, but I hope that you were able to discover some new ones as well. And I want to say thank you. We're a little bit ahead of on time, but we are very close to our 30-minute mark. So that's just great. And I want to say thank you for everyone present today and for your questions. And yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any more questions. As always, this webinar will be available on replay and on our Bcast YouTube channel. So make sure to check that out. We upload all of our webinars and tutorials and a lot of little tips and tricks along the way on how to use Bcast. Thank you to everyone for coming, and I'll see you very soon for a new edition of What's New in Bcast. See you soon.